My best friend falsely testified against me so he could steal family from me. It's now 10 years later, and I just found out he's laying hands on my daughter. I'm going nuclear. 10 years ago, my wife and I were in a custody battle over our daughter right after our divorce. The whole thing was ugly, but nothing prepared me for the betrayal that hit in the courtroom. My best friend, the guy I'd known since high school, took the stand out of nowhere. I remember feeling relieved at first because surely he was there to back me up. Instead, he looked me dead in the eyes and started crying, saying how he watched me violently shake my daughter during one of my rage episodes. My jaw dropped. I looked at him like it was a bad dream. He started showing doctored texts and video clips of me and my daughter. Our happy moments twisted into painting me out as an abusive monster. I looked over at my wife, who was putting on crocodile tears, as if every word he was saying was true. The judge stared at me with disgust. My lawyer wasn't ready for it. Even he looked at me like I was a liar when I told him this was fake. That day, I lost everything. No visitation, no phone calls, nothing. When I stepped outside the courtroom, I could barely breathe. I gathered my things and went home, proceeding to drown my sorrows in alcohol. Once hammered, I called my best friend, slurring my speech and demanding to know why he'd destroyed my life. But all I got back was laughter, cold, and smug. He told me flat out, "I've wanted your wife to be mine for so long. You know how sick I can get when I'm in love." Then my ex-wife took the phone, her voice dripping with cruelty. "He'll be a better father to her than you ever were. You'll never see your daughter again." I started crying over the phone, begging them to tell me they were joking. Instead, my ex poured salt into my wound. She told me that they have been sleeping together behind my back for 2 years, planning exactly how to take my daughter from me. The whole thing was an orchestrated lie to ruin my life. I was devastated. I should have confronted them, but I didn't. I moved states, started over, but I never gave up hope. I kept sending birthday cards, letters, and gifts to my daughter, hoping she'd know her dad loves her, but I never heard a word. All I knew for certain was that my ex was lying to her about how I used to do things to her when she was little. My ex told me so herself. I was almost ready to face the fact she'd never really know me. But then, out of nowhere, 10 years later, a call came that shattered everything. A hospital from my old hometown said my daughter had been in a car accident. They told me my name was listed as her emergency contact. My heart nearly exploded. Why was I her emergency contact? But I didn't ask. I just jumped into my car, hands trembling the whole drive. When I walked into that hospital waiting room, my ex-wife and former best friend sat stunned, clearly never expecting to see me again. The air was thick with awkwardness. My ex-wife quietly got up and moved toward the doctors, presumably to warn them, leaving me and him alone. I didn't say a word, and that's when he started speaking. At first, he seemed emotional, almost like he might apologize, but instead, the things he said made my blood boil. He admitted to me with a cruel tone that he never gave my daughter any of my letters or gifts I sent. He laughed about how he convinced her I'd abandoned her. But then, just as I thought it couldn't get worse, he changed gears. A fake sorrow began dripping from his every word, trying to make himself sound like the victim. "I'll admit it," he said, putting on this righteous act. "I neglected her. Kids are a lot of work, man. You know how it is. I'm not proud of this, but there were times she needed a good wallop. Honestly, I'm doing you a favor letting you back in her life now. She's a mess. You should thank me." I felt myself about to explode. Every part of me wanted to swing at him right there, but before I could respond, a small weak voice called out from behind the slightly open curtain nearby. My daughter, awake, staring at us both. Her eyes filled with pain and confusion. I ran over, heart pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. The next few moments felt like slow motion. My daughter Lily was lying there with a bandage around her head and her arm in a cast. She looked so much like the little girl I remembered, but older now, 16 years old. Her eyes were the same as mine, deep brown with flecks of amber that caught the light. Her hair was longer than I remembered, cascading over her shoulders in waves that reminded me of her mother before everything went wrong. I couldn't believe I was finally seeing her. "Dad?" she whispered, her voice cracking. That one word nearly broke me. I hadn't heard her call me that in 10 years. I wanted to hug her but was afraid to hurt her more. I just stood there, frozen, tears streaming down my face. The antiseptic smell of the hospital room faded away, as I focused entirely on her face, trying to memorize every detail in case this moment was snatched away from me again. My ex-wife, Denise, came rushing back with the nurse. She tried to position herself between me and Lily. The nurse checked Lily's vitals, while Denise glared at me. Her face had aged, lines of bitterness etched around her mouth that hadn't been there before. I stood my ground. "The hospital called me. I'm still her father." My voice was steadier than I expected, drawing strength from Lily's presence. My former best friend Russell joined us now. He put his hand on Denise's shoulder like he owned her. The gesture made me sick. He gained weight over the years, his once athletic frame now soft and imposing. His eyes still held that manipulative gleam I'd been too blind to see when we were friends. "Let's not make a scene," he said with that fake concerned voice. "This isn't about us. It's about Lily." The nurse finished checking Lily's monitors and turned to all of us. "She needs rest. Only immediate family should stay." She was young, probably new to navigating family drama in her ward. Denise immediately pointed at me. "He's not family anymore." Her voice was sharp, cutting through the air between us. The nurse looked confused. I pulled out my wallet and showed her my ID. "I'm her biological father." The hospital called me as her emergency contact. My hands were shaking slightly as I held out my driver's license. This seemed to surprise the nurse. She looked at Lily, who was watching this whole exchange with wide eyes. "Lily, who would you like to stay with you?" Denise cut in before Lily could speak. "She's a minor. I make the decisions." Her knuckles were white as she gripped the side rail of Lily's bed. "I want my dad," Lily said quietly but firmly. The shock on Denise and Russell's faces was priceless. They clearly hadn't expected this. The nurse nodded and started ushering them out. Denise tried to protest but the nurse was firm. "The patient has requested privacy with her father. Please respect that." Once they were gone, I pulled a chair next to Lily's bed. The vinyl squeaked beneath me as I sat down. We sat in silence for a moment. I had rehearsed what I'd say to her 1,000 times over the years, but now my mind was blank. The steady beep of her heart monitor punctuated the silence between us. "They told me you left us," she finally said, "that you didn't want me." Her voice was small, carrying the weight of a decade of abandonment. My heart shattered all over again. "That's not true, Lily. I've thought about you every single day. I sent cards, letters, presents." I swallowed hard, fighting back a fresh wave of tears. "I never got anything," she said, tears forming in her eyes. One escaped, trailing down her cheek. I wanted to wipe it away, but wasn't sure if I should touch her yet. "I know. I just found out they kept everything from you." I clenched my fists in my lap, anger mixing with my grief. Lily looked down at her hands. The fourth tube snaked from her arm to a machine beside the bed. "I heard what Russell said to you, about hitting me. Has he hurt you, Lily?" I asked gently. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she asked, "Did you really hurt me when I was little? Mom always said you had anger issues." "No, Lily, never. I would never hurt you." "They lied in court. Russell made up stories to help your mom get full custody." I leaned forward, desperate for her to believe me. "Why would they do that?" she asked. I sighed. "Russell wanted your mom. They were together before the divorce." Even now, saying it out loud made my stomach turn. "I found some old pictures of you in the attic last month. Mom always said you were dangerous, but you look so normal, happy. You were holding me and smiling." It didn't match what they told me. She picked at the edge of her blanket. "A nervous habit I remembered from when she was small." "What else did you find?" I asked, my heart racing. "Letters in a box with my name on it. They were all opened." "From you." She looked up at me, her eyes searching mine. "You found my letters?" I could barely get the words out. She nodded. "That's why I put you as my emergency contact. I memorized your number from one of the letters." I wasn't sure if it was still good, but before I could respond, a doctor came in. He introduced himself as Dr. Stevens and explained Lily's injuries. Concussion, broken arm, some bruising. She was lucky. The car had hit a tree but the airbags deployed properly. He was middle-aged with kind eyes that seemed to understand more than he was saying. "Who was driving when the accident happened?" I asked. She shook her head. "Russell was. He was angry. Driving too fast." Her voice trembled slightly as she recalled it. The doctor looked uncomfortable. "We've noted that in her chart. There are some concerns about the home situation that we need to address." He glanced meaningfully at me. I nodded, understanding what he was implying. "I'm her father. I want to help." My voice was firm, resolute. After he left, Lily reached for my hand. Her touch was tentative, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed. Her fingers were cold against my palm. "Will you stay?" "As long as you want me to," I promised. We talked for almost an hour. She told me about school, her friends, her life. She liked art, and wanted to study design someday. She had a best friend named Emma who stood by her even when things got bad at home. I shared stories about when she was little, memories she didn't have, how she used to insist on wearing rain boots even on sunny days, how she once tried to free all the goldfish at a pet store because she thought they looked sad. It felt surreal, like I might wake up any moment and find this was all a dream. Eventually, a nurse came to check on Lily again. She mentioned visiting hours would be ending soon. I didn't want to leave, but I knew I couldn't push too hard too fast. "I'll be back first thing tomorrow," I promised. She looked worried. "What if they don't let you?" The fear in her voice broke my heart all over again. "I'll figure something out. I'm not disappearing again." I stood up reluctantly, already dreading the separation. As I was leaving, I ran into Russell in the hallway. He blocked my path, his bulk taking up most of the corridor. "Having a nice reunion?" he sneered. "Don't get used to it." His breath smelled of coffee and cigarettes. "I know what you did," I said, keeping my voice low. "Lily told me everything." He shrugged. "Prove it. Nobody's going to believe you now." "Just like nobody believed you then." His smug confidence made my skin crawl. "She found my letters, Russell. She knows you've been lying to her for years." Something flashed in his eyes. "Worry maybe. She's confused from the accident. Once she's home, things will go back to normal." "She's not going back to your home," I said firmly. "Not after what you've done." He stepped closer. "Watch yourself. One call to the police about you harassing us, and you'll never see her again." His voice was low, threatening. Outside the hospital, I sat in my car for a long time. My mind was racing. I needed a plan. I couldn't lose Lily again, not now that she knew the truth. I called my old lawyer, left a message explaining the situation, then I found a hotel nearby and checked in. That night, I could barely sleep. I kept thinking about Lily in that hospital bed, about what might happen when she was discharged. Would Denise and Russell take her home and cut me off again? Would they punish her for contacting me? The next morning, I was back at the hospital as soon as visiting hours started. To my relief, neither Denise nor Russell was there yet. Lily was awake, looking better than yesterday. Some color had returned to her cheeks, and she smiled when she saw me. "You came back," she said, sounding surprised. "Of course I did," I replied, sitting beside her bed. "I promised, didn't I?" We talked more, filling in the 10-year gap between us. She asked about where I live now, my job, if I had a new family. I told her everything, how I'd never stopped thinking about her. "After I found your letters, things got worse. Russell found out I was looking through the attic. He got really mad." She twisted the hospital bracelet around her wrist nervously. "Did he hurt you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She nodded slightly. "He grabbed my arm really hard, left bruises. It wasn't the first time." She pulled up her sleeve, showing me fading yellowish marks on her upper arm. "The doctors saw them yesterday. They asked a lot of questions." "They're going to help us, Lily," I said. "We'll make sure you're safe." "They will," I assured her, though I wasn't certain myself. "And I believe you. I'm not going anywhere this time." I sat with Lily for hours that day, only stepping out when the nurses came to check on her. Around noon, I went to grab some food from the cafeteria. The hospital food was exactly what you'd expect: bland sandwiches and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting out since morning. I was halfway through a turkey sandwich when I spotted Denise entering the cafeteria. She saw me and froze for a second before marching over to my table. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed, keeping her voice low enough that the elderly couple at the next table couldn't hear. Her hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, making her face look sharper than I remembered. I kept eating my sandwich, trying to stay calm. "I'm visiting my daughter in the hospital. Pretty normal dad stuff." "You're not her dad anymore. You haven't been for 10 years. She leaned in closer. "You need to leave. Now." I put my sandwich down and looked her straight in the eyes. "Lily wants me here, and I'm not going anywhere." Denise's face flushed red. "She doesn't know what she wants. She's confused from the accident. She found the letters, Denise." I watched her face carefully. "She knows you've been lying to her." For a split second, I saw panic in her eyes before she regained her composure. Those letters were from a dangerous man who couldn't control his temper. I was protecting her. I shook my head. "You can keep spinning that story, but Lily's old enough now to see through it." Denise grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Listen to me. You walk away now, or I'll make sure you regret coming back." I pulled my arm away. "Like you did 10 ago? I'm not that same guy anymore, Denise. I'm not running this time." She stood up straight, smoothing her blouse. "Russell will be here soon. He's not as patient as I am." "Yeah, I heard all about his patience from Lily. Sounds like he's got quite the temper." I emphasized the last word, throwing her own accusations back at her. Her eyes narrowed. "You don't know anything about our family." "I know enough," I replied, gathering my trash. "And so does the hospital staff." I walked away, leaving her standing there. My heart was pounding, but I felt stronger than I had in years. I wasn't going to let them intimidate me this time. When I got back to Lily's room, a social worker was there talking to her. She introduced herself as Amber Wilson from Child Protective Services. She was young, probably early 30s, with kind eyes behind professional-looking glasses. "Mr. Carter, I'm glad you're here," she said, extending her hand. "I'd like to speak with you as well." I shook her hand, trying not to look as nervous as I felt. Of course, Amber explained that the hospital had reported concerns about Lily's home situation based on comments she'd made to the medical staff and the circumstances of the accident. She was doing a preliminary assessment. "Lily has shared some concerning information about her home life," Amber said carefully. "I understand you haven't been in the picture for some time?" I nodded, glancing at Lily who was watching us intently. "Not by choice. I lost custody when she was 6. Her mother and her mother's husband kept us apart." "I see." Amber made a note on her tablet. "And you're back in contact now because of the accident?" "Yes. I was listed as her emergency contact." I still couldn't believe Lily had done that. Amber turned to Lily. "And you put your father as your emergency contact recently?" Lily nodded. "Last month, after I found his letters." Amber asked a few more questions, mostly directed at Lily. About Russell's behavior, about the accident, about how things were at home. Lily answered honestly, describing Russell's angry outbursts. How he'd grab her arm hard enough to leave bruises. How he'd been drinking before the accident. "He was yelling at me about something stupid," Lily explained. "I forgot to put away the dishes or something. He said we were going for a drive to talk about my attitude. He was driving way too fast, and I told him to slow down. That just made him madder." Amber nodded, her face professional, but I could see the concern in her eyes. "What happened next?" "He turned to yell at me and didn't see the curve coming. We went off the road." Lily's voice was steady, but her hands were trembling. "The car hit a tree. He wasn't wearing his seatbelt. I was." I felt sick imagining it. Lily could have been cold because of that jerk's temper. Amber asked me a few more questions about my current living situation, my job, my relationship with Lily. I answered everything honestly. I had a stable job as an IT specialist, a decent 2-bedroom apartment, and while I hadn't been allowed to be part of Lily's life, I'd never stopped trying. "I'm going to need to speak with Mrs. Carter." "Sorry, Mrs. Wilson now, and her husband as well," Amber said, standing up. "In the meantime, Lily will remain here at the hospital for at least another day for observation." After she left, I sat next to Lily's bed again. "You okay?" She nodded, but I could tell she was worried. "What's going to happen now?" "I don't know exactly," I admitted. But I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you're safe. Mom's going to be so mad. Lily picked at her blanket again. She hates when people know our private business. This isn't about her, I said gently. It's about keeping you safe. We spent the rest of the afternoon watching bad TV and talking. I learned that Lily was really into photography, that she had a small group of close friends, that she wanted to travel someday. It was strange and wonderful getting to know this person who was both my little girl and a complete stranger. Around dinner time, a nurse came in to tell me that Lily's mother and stepfather were here and wanted to see her. Lily immediately tensed up. I don't want to see them, she said firmly. The nurse looked uncomfortable. They're insisting. They are her legal guardians. I stood up. It's okay. I'll go talk to them. Lily grabbed my hand. Don't leave me alone with them. I won't. I promised. I'll be right back. I found Denise and Russell in the waiting area. Russell looked worse for wear, with a bandage on his forehead and a neck brace. Good, I thought. Then immediately felt guilty for thinking it. We want to see our daughter, Denise said immediately. The nurse said you're in there. Lily doesn't want to see you right now, I replied, keeping my voice level. She's still recovering. Russell stepped forward, wincing slightly. You don't get to make that call. We're her parents. I'm her parent too, I said. And she specifically asked not to see you. This is ridiculous, Denise snapped. You show up after 10 years and suddenly you're father of the year? I didn't show up. I was called because my daughter was in an accident. An accident that happened because he, I nodded toward Russell, was driving angry and hammered. Russell's face darkened. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I do. Lily told me everything. She told the doctors everything. She told the social worker everything. That got their attention. Denise's eyes widened. What social worker? From CPS. She was here earlier. Apparently, the hospital had some concerns about how Lily got those bruises on her arms. I crossed my arms, standing my ground. Russell took another step toward me, his face inches from mine. You called CPS on us? You son of I didn't call anyone, I interrupted. The hospital did. Standard procedure when they suspect abuse. Denise put her hand on Russell's arm, pulling him back. There's been a misunderstanding. Lily is clumsy. Always has been. She falls a lot. That's not what she says, I replied. And I believe her. Russell jabbed a finger at my chest. You think anyone's going to take your side after what you did? I didn't do anything, I said firmly. You both know that. You made it all up to take Lily away from me. Prove it, Russell sneered. It's your word against ours, and we have the court records to back us up. A nurse approached us, looking concerned. Is everything all right here? Fine, Denise said quickly, plastering on a fake smile. We're just having a family discussion. The nurse didn't look convinced. Well, please keep your voices down. This is a hospital. After she walked away, Denise turned back to me. We're going to see our daughter now. She doesn't want to see you, I repeated. And after what Russell did, putting her in the hospital, I don't blame her. That was an accident, Russell growled. Driving hammered with your kid in the car isn't an accident. It's a crime. I stood my ground, not backing down. Denise's face hardened. You're making a big mistake coming back like this. We built a life without you. Lily doesn't need you swooping in now. Confusing her, she found my letters, Denise. She knows I never abandoned her. I watched her face carefully. She knows you've been lying to her for years. Something flickered in Denise's eyes. Fear. Maybe. Those letters were from a dangerous man. I was protecting her. No, you were protecting yourself. And your boyfriend here. I nodded toward Russell. But it's over now. Lily knows the truth. Russell stepped forward again, but Denise held him back. This isn't over, she warned. Not by a long shot. They left, and I returned to Lily's room, feeling shaken, but determined. When I told her what happened, she looked relieved that she didn't have to see them. They'll be back, she said quietly. They always come back angrier after something like this. I won't let them hurt you, I promised. Though I wasn't entirely sure how I'd keep that promise. That night, I slept in the chair next to Lily's bed. It was uncomfortable, but there was no way I was leaving her alone in that hospital. Around midnight, I woke up to find her watching me. You're still here, she whispered, sounding surprised. Of course I am, I whispered back. I told you I'm not going anywhere. She smiled a little, then went back to sleep. I stayed awake for a long time after that, watching her breathe, still amazed that I'd found her again. The next morning, Dr. Stevens came by to check on Lily. He seemed pleased with her progress and mentioned she might be discharged the following day. Where will she go? I asked, voicing the question that had been keeping me up all night. Dr. Stevens glanced at Lily, then back at me. That's something you'll need to discuss with CPS. Miss Wilson mentioned she'd be back this morning. Sure enough, Amber from CPS arrived about an hour later. She asked to speak with me privately, so we stepped out into the hallway. I've spoken with Mrs. Wilson and Mr. Peterson, she said, referring to Denise and Russell. They deny any abuse, of course. Of course they do, I muttered. However, Amber continued, the hospital has documented Lily's injuries, including bruising patterns inconsistent with the car accident, and Mr. Peterson's blood alcohol level was above the legal limit when they were brought in. My heart raced. So what happens now? Given the circumstances, we're recommending Lily be placed in temporary alternative housing while we investigate further. Amber adjusted her glasses. Do you have a place where she could stay? I blinked, surprised. With me? Yes, absolutely. I have a spare bedroom in my apartment. You'd need to undergo an emergency home assessment, But given that you're her biological father with no documented history of abuse, she paused. Wait, there was something in the file about a custody case? My stomach dropped. 10 years ago, yes. My ex-wife and her boyfriend, now husband, made false accusations. I lost custody. Amber frowned. That complicates things. We'll need to review those records. They lied, I said desperately. Russell admitted it to me at the hospital. They wanted Lily for themselves, so they made up stories about me. I understand, but I need to follow protocol. Amber's voice was sympathetic but firm. In the meantime, we need to find a safe placement for Lily. Please, I said. She wants to be with me. She's the one who put me as her emergency contact. She found my letters and realized they'd been lying to her all these years. Amber considered this. Let me make some calls. We might be able to arrange a temporary placement with you, pending a full investigation, but I can't make any promises. After she left, I went back to Lily's room and explained the situation as gently as I could. She looked terrified at the thought of going back to Denise and Russell. I won't let that happen, I promised. Even if you can't stay with me right away, they won't send you back there while CPS is investigating. Where would I go? She asked, her voice small. Maybe a temporary foster home? Just until they sort everything out. I tried to sound more confident than I felt. Lily's eyes filled with tears. I just found you again. I don't want to go to strangers. I held her hand, feeling helpless. I know, sweetheart. I'm doing everything I can. Later that afternoon, Amber returned with news. She'd spoken to her supervisor and reviewed the hospital reports. Given the circumstances, they were willing to place Lily with me temporarily while they investigated further. I'd need to submit to a background check and home assessment, but they could expedite the process. Really? Lily's face lit up for the first time since I'd arrived at the hospital. Amber nodded. It's not permanent yet. There will be follow-up visits and interviews. But for now, yes, you can stay with your father when you're discharged. I could have hugged her. Thank you. Thank you so much. After Amber left, Lily and I started making plans. I'd need to get some things for her room, figure out school arrangements, all the practical details I'd missed out on for 10 years. It was overwhelming but in the best possible way. Our planning was interrupted when a nurse came in, looking uncomfortable. Mr. Carter, there's a police officer here who wants to speak with you. My heart sank. Had Denise and Russell called the police on me somehow? I followed the nurse out to find a uniformed officer waiting. He introduced himself as Officer Jenkins, a middle-aged man with a serious expression. I understand you're Lily Carter's father? He asked. I nodded, trying to stay calm. Yes, that's right. I need to ask you some questions about the accident and the events leading up to it. His tone was professional, giving nothing away. I explained that I hadn't been there, that I'd only arrived after being called as Lily's emergency contact. Officer Jenkins took notes, then asked about my relationship with Lily and her mother. We've been estranged for 10 years, I admitted. Her mother and stepfather kept us apart. And how did you feel about that? He asked, watching me carefully. Devastated, I answered honestly. I never wanted to lose my daughter. I've been trying to contact her for years. Officer Jenkins nodded. Mr. Peterson claims you've been harassing the family, that you showed up here making threats. I shook my head. That's not true. The hospital called me because Lily listed me as her emergency contact. I haven't had any contact with him in years. He says you threatened him in the waiting room yesterday. I didn't threaten anyone, I insisted. We had a conversation. It was tense, but there were no threats. Officer Jenkins made another note. Are you aware that Mr. Peterson is claiming you coached Lily to make false allegations against him? My blood boiled. That's ridiculous. I hadn't spoken to Lily in 10 years until I got here. She told the doctors about the abuse before I even arrived. I understand, Officer Jenkins said, his expression neutral. I'm just following up on the report. What report? I asked, suddenly worried. Mr. Peterson filed a complaint this morning. He's claiming you're trying to alienate his stepdaughter from him and his wife. Officer Jenkins closed his notebook. Given the circumstances, I'd advise you to be careful about making any accusations without evidence. The evidence is all over Lily's body, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. And in the hospital's blood test showing Russell was hammered when he crashed the car with my daughter in it. Officer Jenkins nodded. Those matters are being investigated separately. For now, I'm just giving you a heads up. This situation could get complicated. After he left, I leaned against the wall, trying to process what had just happened. Russell was trying to flip the script, painting me as the manipulative one. It was exactly what he'd done 10 years ago, and it had worked then. I went back to Lily's room, trying to hide my worry. She saw through it immediately. What's wrong? She asked. Was that about me? I sat down beside her. Russell filed a police report. He's claiming I'm manipulating you into making false accusations against him. Lily's face hardened. That's what he always does, turns everything around so he's the victim. I know, I said, but this time we have evidence. The hospital records, the blood test, and you're old enough now that people will listen to you. I'm scared, she admitted. What if they make me go back? They won't, I promised, hoping I was right. CPS is on our side. The doctors are on our side. We just need to stick to the truth. That evening, Amber returned with more paperwork for me to fill out. She mentioned that Denise and Russell had been difficult during their interview, making accusations against me and claiming Lily was making up stories for attention. It's not uncommon for abusers to deflect blame, Amber said matter-of-factly. We're proceeding with the temporary placement with you, but be prepared. They're not going to make this easy. I never expected them to, I replied, signing the last form. But I'm not backing down this time. The next morning, Dr. Stevens cleared Lily for discharge. Her arm was still in a cast, and she had some lingering bruises, but she was well enough to leave. A nurse brought in a wheelchair. Hospital policy for all discharged patients. Ready to go home? I asked, helping her gather the few things she had. Lily smiled. Home? That sounds nice. As I wheeled her toward the exit, I spotted Denise and Russell waiting near the hospital doors. My heart sank. Lily saw them too and grabbed my hand. Don't let them take me, she whispered. I won't, I promised. Continuing forward, Denise stepped in front of the wheelchair, blocking our path. Where do you think you're going with our daughter? I'm taking Lily home, I said firmly. CPS has approved a temporary placement with me. Russell moved beside Denise, his face red with anger. Like hell they have. She's coming home with us. A security guard noticed the confrontation and started walking over. I was grateful for the backup. It's been arranged, I said calmly. You can take it up with CPS if you have concerns. This is kidnapping, Denise hissed. You can't just take her. It's not kidnapping, I replied. It's a legal placement approved by Child Protective Services. Now please move aside. The security guard reached us. Is there a problem here? This man is trying to take my daughter, Denise said immediately, putting on her victim voice. I pulled out the paperwork Amber had given me. I have temporary custody through CPS. My daughter is being discharged into my care. The security guard looked over the paperwork, then nodded. Everything seems in order. Ma'am, sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to step aside. Russell looked like he might explode. This is bullshit. You can't just sir, the security guard cut in. I need you to calm down, or I'll have to ask you to leave the premises. Denise put her hand on Russell's arm. This isn't over, she said to me, her voice low and threatening. Not by a long shot. They stepped aside, and I wheeled Lily past them to the hospital exit. I could feel their eyes burning into my back the whole way. Once we were in my car and driving away, Lily finally relaxed. I can't believe that worked. They always get their way. Not this time, I said, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. But they're right about one thing. This isn't over. I drove us to my hotel first to collect my things. I'd need to drive us back to my apartment in the neighboring state, about 5 hours away. Lily was quiet for most of the drive, watching the scenery pass by. Occasionally, she'd ask a question about where I lived or what my job was like. Will I have to change schools? She asked as we crossed the state line. Probably, I admitted, but we can look into options once we're settled. Maybe online school for the rest of this year. Then figure out next year. She nodded, seeming okay with that. I didn't have many friends anyway. Just Emma, really. You can still keep in touch with Emma, I assured her, and you'll make new friends. We arrived at my apartment building in the early evening. It wasn't fancy, a mid-rise building in a decent neighborhood, but it was clean and safe. I carried Lily's small bag of hospital belongings while she walked beside me, looking around curiously. This is it, I said, unlocking the door to my apartment. It's not much, but there's a spare bedroom that's all yours. Lily stepped inside, taking in the living room with its comfortable but slightly worn furniture, the small kitchen off to one side, the hallway leading to the bedrooms. It wasn't a showplace by any means, but it was home. I like it, she said simply. I showed her to the spare bedroom. It was basic. A bed, a dresser, a small desk, but it had a nice window overlooking a park across the street. We can decorate it however you want, I said. Make it your own space. Lily sat on the edge of the bed, running her hand over the plain blue comforter. I've never had my own room before. I shared with the baby at home. I blinked in surprise. Baby? You have a sibling? She nodded. Half-brother, Tyler. He's 3. This was news to me. I hadn't even considered that Denise and Russell might have had more children. I didn't know. He's okay, Lily said with a shrug. Russell treats him better than me. He's his real kid, you know. The casual way she said it broke my heart. You're my real kid, I said firmly, and you deserve to be treated with love and respect. She smiled a little, looking tired. Can I lie down for a bit? I'm still kind of sore from the accident. Of course, I said. Rest as long as you need. I'll be right out here if you need anything. I left her to rest and went to the kitchen to figure out dinner. My fridge was embarrassingly empty. I hadn't been planning on having a guest, let alone my teenage daughter. I ordered pizza, then sat at my small dining table, trying to process everything that had happened in the last few days. My phone rang, startling me. It was Amber from CPS. Mr. Carter, I wanted to check in and make sure you and Lily arrived safely. Yes, we did. She's resting now. I lowered my voice, moving farther from Lily's room. There was a confrontation at the hospital with her mother and stepfather, but security helped us leave without incident. Amber sighed. I was afraid of that. They've been calling my office all afternoon, demanding we reverse the placement decision. Can they do that? I asked, suddenly worried. Not without cause, Amber assured me, but they're making a lot of noise. They've hired a lawyer and are claiming you manipulated the situation. My stomach tightened. What does that mean for Lily? For now, nothing changes. You have temporary custody while we investigate. I'll be conducting a home visit next week to check on Lily and see how she's settling in. After we hung up, I sat there feeling uneasy. Denise and Russell weren't going to give up easily. They'd taken Lily from me once before with lies and manipulation. I couldn't let that happen again. The pizza arrived, and I went to wake Lily. She came out looking groggy but hungry. We ate at the small dining table, talking about mundane things, Her favorite pizza toppings, TV shows she liked, normal father-daughter stuff that felt anything but normal after 10 years apart. After dinner, Lily helped me clean up, moving around the kitchen like she was trying to memorize where everything went. It struck me that she might be worried this was temporary, that she'd be sent back to Denise and Russell. You know, I said casually, we should make a list of things you need. Clothes, school supplies, whatever would make you feel more at home here. She looked up. Surprised. You think I'll be here that long? I hope so, I said honestly. I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen. She nodded, but I could tell she was afraid to hope too much. Can I take a shower? I still feel gross from the hospital. Of course, let me show you how the shower works. It's a little tricky. After I showed her the bathroom and gave her a clean towel, I went back to the living room and called my lawyer. I'd left him a message the day before but hadn't heard back. This time he answered. Mike, it's been a long time, he said, sounding surprised. What's this about your daughter? I explained everything. Lily's accident, the abuse allegations against Russell, the temporary custody arrangement. Stephen listened without interrupting, then let out a low whistle. That's quite a situation. And you're sure the abuse allegations are legitimate? Absolutely, I said firmly. The hospital documented bruising consistent with abuse, not just from the accident, and Russell was hammered when he crashed the car with Lily in it. That helps, Stephen said, but be prepared. If they fought this dirty 10 years ago, they'll do it again. They might try to use the old custody ruling against you. Can they do that? It was based on lies. It's still a legal precedent, Stephen warned. We'd need to prove those allegations were false, which isn't easy after all this time. I thought about what Lily had told me, about finding my letters. Lily found evidence that they've been hiding my communications from her. She knows they lied about me abandoning her. That's helpful, but not definitive proof of the other allegations being false. Stephen paused. What we need is for Russell to slip up, to admit what they did. I remembered Russell's smug face at the hospital, how he'd bragged about keeping my letters from Lily. He's arrogant. He might, if pushed. Don't do anything stupid, Stephen warned. Let me handle the legal side. I'll file for permanent custody based on the abuse allegations and the CPS placement. In the meantime, focus on taking care of Lily and documenting everything. After we hung up, I sat there thinking about what Stephen had said. We needed proof that Denise and Russell had lied 10 years ago, but how could I get that after all this time? Lily came out of the bathroom, her hair wet and wearing the same clothes she'd had at the hospital. I made a mental note to take her shopping as soon as possible. Feel better? I asked. She nodded, sitting next to me on the couch. What happens now? Now we take it one day at a time, I said. Tomorrow we'll go shopping, get you some clothes and things for your room. We'll need to figure out school eventually, but that can wait a bit. What about Mom and Russell? She asked, her voice small. They won't just let me stay here. No, they probably won't, I admitted, but we have the law on our side this time, and the truth. She leaned against my shoulder, a gesture so natural and yet so surprising after all these years apart. I'm glad I found your letters. Me too, sweetheart, I said, my throat tight with emotion. Me too. The next few days fell into a strange new routine. We went shopping for clothes and school supplies. I called my boss and explained the situation, arranging to work remotely for a while. Lily and I spent hours just talking, filling in the gaps of the past 10 years. She told me more about life with Denise and Russell, how Russell's temper would flare over the smallest things, how Denise would make excuses for him, telling Lily she needed to try harder not to provoke him, how they'd tell her I was dangerous, that I didn't want her, that I'd hurt her when she was little. I believed them for a long time, she admitted one evening as we sat on the balcony watching the sunset, but things didn't add up. I had these memories of you that didn't match what they said, like how you used to read to me every night, or how you'd let me stand on your feet to dance. I smiled at the memory. You love that? You called it daddy dancing. She nodded. I remembered that. And other stuff too. Good stuff. It didn't make sense with what they told me. That's why you went looking in the attic? Yeah. Mom keeps all the important papers up there. I thought maybe there'd be something about you. She twisted a strand of hair around her finger. I found this box with my name on it. It had all these letters and cards. Birthday cards, Christmas cards, letters telling me you loved me and missed me. My heart ached thinking about all those messages that never reached her. I sent something every month. For 10 years. I know. They were all there, organized by date. She looked at me, her eyes sad. Why would they keep them if they weren't going to give them to me? Control, I said simply. They wanted to control the narrative about me. If you'd gotten those letters, you might have questioned their story, which is exactly what happened when I found them, she said with a small defiant smile. The doorbell rang, interrupting our conversation. I checked the peephole and saw Amber from CPS standing there with another woman I didn't recognize. Mr. Carter, Amber said when I opened the door. Sorry for the unannounced visit. This is my supervisor, Beverly Thompson. We need to conduct an initial home assessment. I invited them in, calling for Lily to join us. The assessment was thorough, but not invasive. They checked Lily's room, the bathroom, the kitchen. They asked about meals, school plans, house rules. Beverly asked Lily several questions about how she was feeling, if she felt safe, if she had everything she needed. I feel safe here, Lily said firmly. For the first time in a long time. Beverly nodded, making notes. And how are you recovering from your injuries? Lily showed her the cast on her arm. It itches, but otherwise okay. The headaches are mostly gone now. After about an hour, They seemed satisfied. Amber pulled me aside while Beverly finished talking with Lily. "Everything looks good," she said quietly, "but I should warn you, Mrs. Wilson and Mr. Peterson have filed a formal complaint. They're claiming you've manipulated Lily and CPS into this arrangement." My stomach tightened. "That's ridiculous." "I know," Amber said, "but they're pushing hard. They've hired a lawyer and are demanding Lily be returned to them immediately." "What does that mean for us?" I asked, glancing at Lily, who was showing Beverly a drawing she'd made. "For now, nothing changes. You still have temporary custody, but there will be a hearing next week to review the placement." Amber looked sympathetic. "You should hire a lawyer if you haven't already." "I have," I assured her. "He's filing for permanent custody." After they left, I explained the situation to Lily as gently as I could. She took it better than I expected, but I could see the fear in her eyes. "They won't win," I promised. "Not this time." That night, as I was getting ready for bed, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. "Hello? Is this Mike?" A young woman's voice, vaguely familiar. "Yes." "Who's this?" "It's Emma, Lily's friend." She sounded nervous. "She gave me your number. I hope that's okay." "Of course," I said, surprised. "Is everything all right?" "Not really," Emma said. "Mrs. Wilson and Mr. Peterson came to my house today. They were asking all these questions about Lily, trying to get me to say she made up stuff about Mr. Peterson." My blood ran cold. "What did you tell them?" "The truth," Emma said firmly. "That Lily showed me the bruises, that she was scared of him, that she cried when she told me about how he grabbed her and shook her." "Thank you for being honest," I said. "Genuinely grateful. That couldn't have been easy." "They were super mad," Emma continued. "Mr. Peterson started yelling at me, saying I was a liar. My mom kicked them out." "I'm sorry you had to deal with that," I said, "but I appreciate you telling me." "There's something else," Emma said, her voice dropping lower. "After they left, I remembered something. Lily gave me some stuff to keep for her a few months ago. Letters and pictures. She was afraid her stepdad would find them and get mad." My heart raced. "What kind of letters and pictures?" "Your letters," Emma said, "the ones she found in the attic. And some pictures of you and her when she was little. She wanted them safe. This could be exactly what we needed. Proof that Lily had found the letters before the accident, before she ever contacted me. Evidence that she'd been telling the truth about Russell." "Emma, those letters could be really important," I said carefully. "Would you be willing to give them to my lawyer?" "Yeah, of course," Emma replied without hesitation. "Lily's my best friend. I want to help her." We arranged for Stephen to contact Emma's mother the next day. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed, feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time in days. Maybe we had a chance after all. The next morning, I called Stephen and told him about Emma and the letters. He agreed it could be crucial evidence and promised to follow up immediately. "This is good," he said. "If we can prove Lily found those letters before the accident, before she ever contacted you, it supports her credibility. And if she has pictures of the bruises Russell gave her, even better." "What about the hearing next week?" I asked. "Should Lily be there?" "Probably not for the whole thing," Stephen advised. "But the judge might want to speak with her privately. We'll prepare her for that possibility." After I hung up, I found Lily in the kitchen making toast. She looked up when I came in, immediately picking up on my mood. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing's wrong," I assured her. "Actually, something might be right for once. Emma called me last night." Lily's eyes widened. "She did? What did she say?" I told her about the conversation, about Emma's willingness to help. "She mentioned you gave her some of my letters and pictures to keep safe?" Lily nodded. "After I found them in the attic, Russell almost caught me looking through them once. So I took the most important ones to Emma's house." "That was smart thinking," I said. "Those letters could help us prove you're telling the truth about everything." For the first time since the accident, Lily smiled a real hopeful smile. "Really? Really?" I confirmed. "Our lawyer is contacting Emma's mom today to get them." We spent the rest of the day making plans. I enrolled Lily in online classes to finish out the school year. We picked out paint colors for her bedroom. Small, normal things that felt revolutionary after everything we'd been through. That evening, Stephen called with an update. He'd spoken with Emma's mother, who was fully supportive, and had already gathered the letters and pictures Lily had left with them. He'd arranged to pick them up the next day. "There's something else," Stephen added. Emma told her mother about other incidents she witnessed. Times when Russell was aggressive with Lily. "She's willing to provide a statement." "That's incredible," I said, relief washing over me. "Will it be enough?" "It's a strong start," Stephen said cautiously. "But be prepared, Denise and Russell aren't going to back down easily." He was right about that. The very next day, a process server showed up at my door with papers. Denise and Russell were suing for emergency custody, claiming I had manipulated Lily into making false accusations against them. The allegations were ridiculous. That I'd brainwashed Lily during our phone conversations before the accident, conversations that never happened. That I'd coached her to lie to the doctors and CPS. That I was an unstable parent with a history of violence, citing the old custody case. I called Stephen immediately, my hands shaking with anger as I read through the papers. "They're lying. Again. Just like 10 years ago." "I expected something like this," Stephen said calmly. "Send me the papers. We'll respond appropriately." When I told Lily about the lawsuit, she wasn't surprised either. "That's what they do," she said, with a wisdom beyond her years. "They lie and twist things until they get their way." "Not this time," I promised her. "This time we have evidence. This time you're old enough to speak for yourself." The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Stephen collected Emma's statement and the letters Lily had hidden with her. He filed our response to Denise and Russell's emergency petition, including affidavits from the hospital staff who had documented Lily's injuries and Emma's statement about witnessing staff who had documented Lily's injuries, and Emma's statement about witnessing Russell's abuse. The night before the hearing, Lily and I sat on the couch watching a movie, both too anxious to really pay attention to the plot. During a quiet moment, she turned to me. "What if they win tomorrow?" she asked, her voice small. "What if I have to go back?" I put my arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "That's not going to happen. But even if something goes wrong tomorrow, I'm not giving up. Not ever again." She leaned her head against my shoulder. "I'm glad I found your letters." "Me too, sweetheart," I said, my throat tight with emotion. "Me too." The morning of the hearing, I woke up before my alarm even went off. I barely slept, just tossing and turning all night thinking about what might happen. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, trying to calm my nerves. Lily came out of her room around 7, already dressed in the new outfit we'd bought for court. Simple black pants and a blue blouse that made her look older than 16. "You look nice," I said, pushing a mug of hot chocolate toward her. I'd noticed she preferred that to coffee. "Thanks," she mumbled, sitting down across from me. She looked as nervous as I felt, picking at her fingernails the same way she used to when she was little. "Everything's going to be okay," I told her, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Stephen is meeting us at the courthouse. He's got all the evidence we need." Lily nodded, but didn't look convinced. "Russell always gets his way," she said quietly. "He's really good at making people believe him." "Not this time," I promised. "This time, we have proof." We drove to the courthouse in silence. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel, and I kept checking the rear-view mirror like I was expecting Denise and Russell to be following us or something. The courthouse looked exactly the same as it had 10 years ago when I lost everything. Same gray stone steps, same heavy wooden doors. I took a deep breath before getting out of the car. Stephen was waiting for us in the lobby, looking professional in his suit with a briefcase at his feet. He shook my hand and gave Lily a reassuring smile. "You must be Lily," he said. "I'm Stephen. I've heard a lot about you." Lily managed a small smile. "Nice to meet you." Stephen led us to a small conference room where we could talk privately before the hearing. He explained what would happen. The judge would hear arguments from both sides, might speak to Lily privately, and then make a decision about the temporary custody arrangement. "What about their lawsuit?" I asked. "The one claiming I manipulated Lily?" "We filed a motion to dismiss," Stephen said. "It's baseless, and I think the judge will see that, especially with the evidence we have." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Emma's statement is very compelling. She details multiple incidents where she witnessed Russell's aggressive behavior toward Lily, and the letters and photographs are exactly what we needed." Lily leaned forward. "You have the pictures too?" Stephen nodded. "Emma's mother gave us everything, including some photos you took of bruises on your arms." Lily looked down at her hands. "I was scared to show anyone else. Russell said if I ever told, he'd make things worse." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "You're incredibly brave, you know that." The door opened, and a court officer told us it was time. As we walked into the courtroom, I spotted Denise and Russell immediately. They were sitting at a table with their lawyer, a sharp-looking woman in an expensive suit. Denise was dressed like she was going to church, all proper in a conservative dress. Russell had cleaned up too, wearing a suit that made him look almost respectable. It was all for show, and it made me sick. The judge, an older man named Judge Harrington, called the court to order. He explained that this was a hearing to review the temporary custody arrangement for Lily Carter, and to address the emergency petition filed by Denise and Russell. Denise and Russell's lawyer went first. She painted this picture of them as loving, concerned parents, whose daughter had been manipulated by her estranged father. She claimed I'd somehow gotten in contact with Lily before the accident and convinced her to make up stories about abuse. She even suggested the bruises documented at the hospital could have been self-inflicted or from normal teenage activities. "Your Honor," she said in this smooth, practiced voice, "Mr. Carter lost custody of his daughter 10 years ago due to his violent behavior. Now he's using this tragic accident as an opportunity to alienate Lily from her mother and stepfather, who have raised her for the past decade." I felt my blood pressure rising with every lie she told. Stephen put a hand on my arm, silently telling me to stay calm. When it was his turn to speak, he stood up with quiet confidence. "Your Honor," he began, "the facts of this case are quite different from what opposing counsel has presented. Lily Carter was brought to the hospital following a car accident in which her stepfather, Russell Peterson, was driving while intoxicated. Hospital staff documented multiple bruises on Lily's body inconsistent with the accident injuries. When questioned, Lily disclosed a pattern of physical abuse by Mr. Peterson." He paused, letting that sink in. "Mr. Carter was contacted by the hospital because Lily had listed him as her emergency contact. He had no prior contact with his daughter for 10 years despite his continuous efforts to maintain a relationship through letters and gifts, all of which were intercepted and hidden by Mrs. Hunt Wilson and Mr. Peterson." Stephen then presented the evidence, the hospital records, the CPS reports, Emma's statement, and most importantly, the letters and photographs Lily had hidden at Emma's house. "These letters, Your Honor, were discovered by Lily in her parents' attic months before the accident, before she had any contact with Mr. Carter. They proved that Mr. Carter never abandoned his daughter as she had been told. The photographs document bruising from incidents that occurred well before the accident." The judge looked through the evidence carefully, his expression giving nothing away. Then he looked at Lily. "Young lady, I'd like to speak with you privately in my chambers." Lily glanced at me, looking terrified. I gave her what I hoped was a reassuring nod. "It'll be okay," I whispered. "Just tell the truth." She followed the judge out of the courtroom. The waiting was torture. Denise kept shooting daggers at me with her eyes, while Russell stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched tight. I couldn't believe I'd once considered this man my best friend. Looking at him now, all I saw was a monster who'd hurt my daughter and stolen 10 years of my life with her. After what felt like forever, Lily and the judge returned. She sat back down next to me, and I could tell she'd been crying. I wanted to ask her what happened, but the judge was already speaking. "I've reviewed all the evidence and spoken with Lily," he said. "I find the emergency petition filed by Mrs. Wilson and Mr. Peterson to be without merit. The temporary custody arrangement placing Lily with her father will remain in effect pending the final custody determination." I let out the breath I'd been holding. Denise made a choked sound of protest, and Russell's face turned an angry red. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "based on the evidence presented today, I am referring this matter to the district attorney's office for review of possible criminal charges against Mr. Peterson for child abuse and endangerment." Russell started to rise from his seat, his face flushing with anger. "This is wrong. She's manipulating everyone with these lies." "Mr. Peterson," the judge warned sharply, "control yourself in my courtroom." Russell ignored the warning, his voice rising. "You don't understand what we've been dealing with. She's been troubled since her father left." "Mr. Peterson," the judge interrupted more forcefully, "one more outburst and I'll hold you in contempt." Russell's lawyer tugged at his sleeve, trying to get him to sit down, but he shook her off. "You want to know the truth?" Russell was nearly shouting now, his control slipping. "We did what we had to do back then. He was going to take her from us. We couldn't let that happen." The courtroom went silent. Even Russell seemed to realize what he'd just implied. His lawyer closed her eyes in defeat. "Are you admitting," the judge said carefully, "that you and Mrs. Wilson fabricated evidence in the original custody case?" Russell looked trapped. Denise was staring at him in horror. That's not what I meant," he stammered. But it was too late. The damage was done. The judge ordered a full review of the original custody case and maintained the temporary custody arrangement placing Lily with me. He also instructed the district attorney to investigate Russell's statement as a possible admission of perjury. As we left the courtroom, I felt like I was floating. Lily walked beside me, a small smile playing on her lips. "You did it," I said, putting my arm around her shoulders. "You were so brave in there." She leaned against me. "I just told the truth, about everything." Stephen met us outside looking pleased. "That couldn't have gone better," he said. Russell's outburst was exactly what we needed. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we file for permanent custody," Stephen said. "With what happened today, I'd say our chances are excellent." As we walked toward the exit, I spotted Denise standing alone near the water fountain. She looked defeated, her perfect church outfit now seeming like a costume that didn't fit right. Part of me wanted to walk right past her, but something made me stop. "Lily, wait here with Stephen for a minute," I said. "I need to talk to your mom." Lily looked uncertain but nodded. I walked over to Denise, who tensed up when she saw me coming. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice lacking its usual edge. "I want to know why," I said simply. "Why did you do it?" "We could have shared custody. We could have both been in her life." Denise looked away. "Russell was obsessed with having a perfect family. He convinced me you'd try to turn Lily against us if you had any access to her." She sighed. After a while, I started believing it too. "That's not a good enough reason to destroy someone's life," I said. "To lie to your daughter for 10 years. "I know," she said quietly. "I know that now." I shook my head. There was nothing more to say. I turned to walk away, but Denise called after me. "Mike, take care of her." "Better than I did." I nodded once, then went back to Lily and Stephen. We walked out of the courthouse together, into the bright afternoon sunlight. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The district attorney decided to press charges against Russell for child endangerment, related to the hammered driving accident, and began investigating the perjury allegations. He eventually accepted a plea deal with community service and probation, a lighter sentence than I thought he deserved, but one that acknowledged his wrongdoing. Denise filed for divorce, finally seeing Russell for what he was. She didn't contest my petition for permanent custody of Lily, which surprised me. Lily settled into life with me more each day. We painted her room the soft green color she'd picked out. She started online classes to finish the school year and was doing well. Emma came to visit one weekend, the two girls staying up late giggling and talking like normal teenagers. It was music to my ears. One evening about a month after the hearing, Lily and I were making dinner together. She was chopping vegetables while I worked on the sauce, moving around each other in the small kitchen like we'd been doing it for years instead of weeks. "Dad?" she said, not looking up from the cutting board. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything," I said, stirring the sauce. "Are you mad at Mom? For what she did?" I paused, thinking about it. I was for a long time. But now, I'm just sad about all the time we lost. Lily nodded, still focused on her chopping. "She called me yesterday. This surprised me." "Oh, what did she say?" "She apologized for lying to me about you, for staying with Russell even when she knew he was hurting me." Lily set down the knife and looked at me. She was crying. "How do you feel about that?" I asked carefully. Lily shrugged. "I don't know. Part of me is still really angry, but another part wants to forgive her," I suggested. "Maybe eventually." She picked up the knife and resumed chopping. Is that okay? Of course it is, I said. She's still your mom, and people make mistakes. Even really big ones. Like Russell? I shook my head. What Russell did wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate cruelty. There's a difference. Lily seemed to accept this. We finished making dinner and ate at the small table, talking about normal things. Her classes, my work. A movie we wanted to see that weekend. After dinner, we cleaned up together. Then settled on the couch to watch TV. As some sitcom played in the background, Lily leaned her head against my shoulder. I'm glad I found your letters, she said, for probably the 100th time since she'd come to live with me. Me too, kiddo, I replied, putting my arm around her. Me too. 2 months later, the judge made his final ruling. I was granted permanent custody of Lily. Denise was given visitation rights, which Lily decided she wanted to try, starting with supervised visits. Russell pleaded guilty to child endangerment and driving under the influence, receiving a suspended sentence and probation. The abuse investigation was ongoing, but with Lily safe with me, it wasn't our primary concern anymore. We celebrated the custody decision with a small party. Just me, Lily, Emma, and her mom, and a few of my friends from work who had been supportive throughout the whole ordeal. I ordered pizza and bought a cake that said "Finally Home" on it, which made Lily roll her eyes, but I caught her taking a picture of it when she thought I wasn't looking. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and Lily was in her room texting with Emma, I sat on the balcony looking at the stars. My phone buzzed with a text from Stephen. Congratulations again. You did it. But I knew the truth. I hadn't done it. Lily had. Her courage in finding those letters, in putting me as her emergency contact, in telling the truth about Russell, that's what had changed everything. My phone buzzed again with another text, this time from Lily, even though she was just in the other room. Thanks for not giving up on me. I smiled and texted back. Never did, never will. A week later, Lily and I drove back to our old hometown. She wanted to get the rest of her things from Denise's house, and I'd promised to take her. It was strange being back, driving past familiar landmarks that now seemed to belong to another life. Denise's house, the house that used to be mine too, looked smaller than I remembered. The front yard was overgrown. The flower beds I used to maintain now full of weeds. Denise met us at the door, looking tired but sober. Russell was long gone, moved out after the divorce filing. Lily's room is upstairs, she told me awkwardly. Same as always, I nodded. Thanks. Lily went up to pack her things while Denise and I stood in uncomfortable silence in the living room. The house was quiet without Russell's domineering presence. I'm sorry, Denise said suddenly. For everything. For lying in court. For keeping her from you. For staying with him even when I knew. She trailed off, tears in her eyes. I didn't say it was okay because it wasn't. But I nodded, acknowledging her apology. What about Tyler? I asked, remembering Lily's half-brother. He's with my mother today, Denise said. He asks about Lily a lot. Misses her. She could visit him sometimes, I offered, if you want. Denise looked surprised, then grateful. I'd like that. He would too. When Lily came down with her bags, the three of us stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then Denise hugged Lily. A quick uncertain embrace that Lily returned stiffly. I'll call you about visiting Tyler, Denise said as we were leaving. Lily nodded. Okay. In the car, Lily was quiet, looking out the window at the neighborhood where she'd grown up. I didn't push her to talk, letting her process everything in her own time. Finally, as we hit the highway heading home, she spoke. It feels weird. Leaving. I know, I said. It's okay to have mixed feelings. She nodded. I'm glad we're going home though. Our home. Me too, I said, feeling a warmth spread through my chest at her words. 6 months later, life had settled into a new normal. Lily started at her new high school and was doing well. She'd made a few friends and joined the photography club. She visited Denise and Tyler once a month, short visits that were slowly getting less awkward. Russell was out of the picture entirely, serving time for violating his probation. One evening, I came home from work to find Lily at the dining table, surrounded by papers and photos. What's all this? I asked, setting down my laptop bag. I'm making a timeline, she explained. For my photography project, it's about memory and perspective. I looked closer and saw she was arranging photographs chronologically. Baby pictures, toddler years, elementary school. There was a big gap, and then recent photos from the last 6 months with me. I like it, I said. But what's with the gap? Lily smiled. That's the point, the missing years. But look, she pointed to the edge of the table where she'd placed the letters I'd sent over the years, along with the few photographs she'd managed to save at Emma's house. They're not really missing, just hidden for a while. I felt a lump in my throat. That's really powerful, Lily. She shrugged, but I could tell she was pleased. I thought maybe I could enter it in the school art show, if that's okay. More than okay, I said. It's amazing. That night, after Lily had gone to bed, I sat looking at her project still spread across the dining table. The timeline of our fractured then mended relationship. The evidence of 10 years of separation and the small bridges that had kept us connected even when we didn't know it. Letters never received, but somehow still finding their way to her. I carefully picked up one of the photos. Lily at about 4 years old, sitting on my shoulders at the zoo, both of us laughing at something off camera. I remember that day perfectly. How she'd been so excited to see the elephants that she couldn't stop bouncing. How her little hands had held tight to my hair as I carried her on my shoulders. I put the photo back in its place on the timeline. The past was the past. What mattered was now. Lily's safe and happy, living the life she deserved. And me, finally able to be the father I'd always wanted to be.